All right, it looks like we are live here. Welcome, folks. I am Tyler Dupree, and this is the People Cooler Than Me show, where I will interview. I never run out of interview material because just about everyone is cooler than me. So yeah, I'm really excited about today. For those of you who were here from video one, you know that we've jumped around locations and stuff, and so now I am working on getting the studio set up here at home that I'm really excited about. This is just the first iteration of that. Next week I should actually have my studio pretty well set up, I think. So we're really excited that you're joining. If this is your first time, thanks for joining. Today I am super excited. We are talking about confidence, about personal development, and I'm just trying to pull up one thing here. Just want to make sure that this is working. So, okay. Anyway, sorry about that, folks. Yeah. So anyway, I'm really excited. Justin is joining us here. He has a welcome, Justin. Justin has a web series all about personal development, building your self-confidence. He has experience with that. He mentioned that there was a time that he would throw up at even the thought of talking to girls. So I'm really excited for you to join us, Justin. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's start there. What is it that you do? What are you working on? What are you most excited about right now? And yeah, what are you here to talk about?
You know what? I'm just yeah. Thanks for having me. First off, here, this is very cool. What I've been working on right now is a product called Fear 2.0. So I actually wrote a book called The Fear, and it was a step-by-step process on how to eliminate social anxiety and build up confidence, stuff like that. And so it's kind of a desensitization process, a type of exposure therapy, if you will. And so I've taken that, and it was a pretty well received sort of thing. So what we did is we took a lot of the feedback, and then we kind of revamped it up. We got some new material in there, just kind of focused in on the stuff that was like the real sticking points for people. And the nice thing about the new one is that it's actually a full video product. So kind of like parlays with my YouTube channel as well. And you actually get to see me going out and doing all the challenges and stuff. So a lot of them they sound a little crazy, but just, walking up to random strangers and like asking for weird requests, stuff like that, getting rejected. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Cool. So if we go to your YouTube channel, we'll actually be able to see videos of you doing this process of you doing the desensitization exercise. That's not an easy word to say. Yeah, so we'll actually be able to see you doing these exercises on your YouTube channel.
Well, that'll actually be for the product itself, sort of thing. On the YouTube channel right now is all just personal development content, like self-actualization content. So it all kind of like interconnects. But yeah, you'll see quite a bit of stuff on there coming up pretty soon here. So
explain self-actualization.
Self-actualization, at least by my definition and such of it, is I'm kind of taking as well the classic like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you've ever heard of that concept, right? It's
sure. Yeah.
It's essentially just you at your peak sort of thing, right? So it's you living out kind of the best version of yourself. So
okay.
Yeah,
so oh no, yeah, I didn't know if you were stopping there. So you're trying to live out the best version of yourself. So it's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if I understand, is based on motivation, yes. Personal motivation. So how does that play into someone's personal development track then?
Yeah, and so the whole process of self-actualization is essentially like handling the different motivations as you get higher up on this Maslow's hierarchy of needs sort of thing, until you get to this place where your needs then become self-actualization needs. And so what I do is I help people promote different behaviors and awareness and emotional intelligence that kind of helps them become self-actualized. And so the process of doing that is really, it's a certain kind of I'm trying to think of the simplest way to kind of put it here, if you're not familiar with it, but the process is essentially living out your highest potential. And so this, whether that be with like your health, or whether that be with your finances, or whether that be with confidence, just things along those degrees, you're kind of operating at a thinking level that is your max potential at the current time. So that's what I help promote.
Okay, interesting. So you have a psychology degree, right?
I do, yes, yeah.
Okay, and so that obviously has played into your interest in this area and your development, not in just in your personal development, but the development of this program to help others, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I've been studying this stuff for like well over 10 years. I was raised on personal development and stuff. So it's, I mean, the psychology degree definitely helps like get that more of that form and the ability to actually teach people and like no sticking points and such like that. But yeah, a lot of it has come from as well, like prior knowledge and in the field kind of knowledge. There's a bit of a difference in terms of like the education you'll receive formally versus like if you were to go to like start reading books and stuff like that. The education is very, very different. Like academically versus like commercially with like personal development products. So it's kind of the best of both worlds in one sense, but yeah.
Okay, interesting. So not to put you on the spot, but like what's the difference between your philosophy or the core principles of what your program is built on and like let's say like a Dale Carnegie type of philosophy or you know can I you know how do you are you similar, are you different than a lot of the self-help books that we all are familiar with?
Yeah. I would say the most defining characteristic about the fear versus what you'd see with other social anxiety products or different anxiety products in general is that my process is about exposure. So it's not so much about mindfulness. There's a lot of that stuff that's very good, but it's kind of one different road to it. My road particularly is very much like, let's cause a little bit of psychological trauma in a certain sense, but in a controlled way that we can do, you kind of produce a different result. So the one side of it is like the mindfulness will kind of allow you to step back from the actual problem, right? Like you can kind of get into a sense of like who's experiencing the anxiety sort of stuff like that. And like this stuff is very external for me. The other side, the other hand of this is exposure. And so exposure has to do way more with the fact of like we're actually psychologically scarring us, right? Like scarring ourselves with like kind of a rejection, like a forced type of rejection with people. We're breaking down kind of the best way for me to put it is we're breaking down old like brain behavior sort of stuff. So that we're kind of psychologically scarred in a certain sense. It sounds awful, but it's the nice thing is then you can handle a lot more without actually having to like constantly step back. You can just kind of put yourself in higher stress levels.
Yeah, I kind of wonder how much of the audience, the people viewing this, really have how much experience they've had with this kind of methodology. I personally have heard it a few times. Some names that come to mind are like Tim Ferriss and
Yeah.
Noah Kagan is another one. I don't know if you're familiar with Noah.
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Noah's he's an entrepreneur. He was like number 24 at Facebook or something like that.
Oh, cool.
He helped build Mint, the app Mint.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I use that.
So yeah, he built a user base of 200,000 users before the app even launched, and so
oh, wow.
Pretty successful guy. But he talks a lot about personal development, and one of the things he talks about is the test. I think he calls it the coffee test. And what you do is you go to a coffee shop, you order your coffee, and then when the person gives you the price of the coffee, you ask them if they can slide you a deal or give you a discount. Yeah. Have you heard of that test?
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah. And
yeah,
that in a certain sense is kind of just getting used to that rejection, right? It's kind of like just the act of doing it changes the way that you like start to interact with other people, right? Because if you start to kind of get a positive reinforcement and you realize like, whoa, I didn't die on this sort of thing, right? Even though it was anxiety provoking, you're able to kind of like parlay that in other areas of your life as well. So
yeah. The idea is that this person's going to say no because they're a coffee barista or not even a barista. They're the person cashing you out, and maybe so they don't have the authority to just give you a discount, and they don't know you. So the point isn't to get the discount. The point is that you're supposed to get rejected, right? That's what you're trying to do with these social experiments, I guess you can call them, or individual experiments. Really, is that you're trying to feel that rejection in a controlled way, would you say? In a way, and I know that's the phrase that you used. You're trying to limit the amount of actual damage you're doing to your psychology, I assume, at the same time, because it's not fun to get rejected.
Oh God, no. But every time you do it, it's kind of like 1% better, 1% more confident. Every little approach you do, it's like little stacking effect until it's the kind of thing where it's habituated in you. That's just one of the processes that I put in the fear as well. So yeah.
Okay, fascinating. So let's go back to the beginning. I put in the line that you gave me in the beginning, that you had a extreme social anxiety, I would say is fair.
Oh yeah.
What was it like? How did you recognize the problem, and where did you go from there?
Sure, yeah. I mean, this is something that, like, for me at least, it was particular with women. Well, it was all social scenarios, right? And what it kind of feels like for, I think a lot of people can relate to this, is there's like, everyone has social anxiety to a certain degree, like social inhibitions, unless you're like a sociopath or something like this, right? But realistically though, we all have these social inhibitions, and the degree of that kind of indicates if it's like social anxiety. And so I have the belief that nowadays, majority of us have a type of social anxiety, and this is just due to the like social media and such like this. Most face-to-face interactions don't happen like automatically just like from meeting up with someone at like a mall or something. It's usually we creep them on our Facebook or we creep them on Instagram, stuff like that, and then we talk to them. So because of this, we've kind of lost that skill set. And so for me, it's yeah, it's been my whole life kind of thing with that. And the whole process that I've kind of recognized is like, I was raised on personal development, like I was saying. So I was constantly holding myself to a pretty high standard with stuff. And I kept kind of exposing myself over and over and over. I knew that was kind of like one of the processes to doing this, right? I tried the mindfulness and such, but you know, and you can get some results with it. The problem is that it was, at least for me, was that you couldn't predict what was going to happen. So you try and throw yourself in a scenario, and you could try to be mindful. You try and, you know, allow yourself to have that kind of awareness to be like, okay, this is, I'm not experiencing this sort of thing like that, and have that distance. But realistically, the stuff that I found that was like really sticking was the things where I would actually go out and expose myself. And so for many years, I would go to like nightclubs and just like approach random people. Just even the thought of like going and like purchasing something at like a grocery store and like having to talk to the cashier would like kind of freak me out a little, right? And I think the best way to describe it is kind of like a mental haze. So you kind of in this sense where it's just like, it's like you can't even think about stuff. You're just like really overwhelmed. Like you have a lot of like, we call it like adrenaline running through your system at all times. Just even being in a social environment. And so like what that kind of translates to is like you can hide it pretty well, but you know, it's actually going out, you know, when you get the invites to parties or you get the invites to go and like hang out with friends and stuff, and you're just, it just feels you just can't wait till you get home. And there's one part which is like introversion, but this is more about you know, actually having that reaction to just even being around new people and things like this. So that's something that I kind of have always felt. And for me, at least, the process was just, let's just keep going at it. Let's just keep going at it. But in doing that, I recognized that there was sometimes I would do that and it would kind of make it worse. And so what I noticed was that there was a difference in the type of exposure that you were receiving and the context behind that exposure. And so I could tell when certain things would actually benefit me versus not. And so in doing that, that's kind of what I've designed this this whole program around, was like what works and what doesn't, and what is the contextual element to the exposure that makes it actually produce results really, really quick.
That's interesting. So I'm fascinated by what you said, that there's certain things that you can do that will actually make it worse. It seems like when you first told me about this idea, that was the first thing that popped in my head, was like, well, for someone with extreme social anxiety, I imagine further rejection would maybe just confirm their fears. And then so I guess the question then is, what did you find a sort of a theme of the kinds of things that worked versus the kinds of things that didn't work? Can you give us a few examples? Sure,
yeah. In terms of like a basic kind of theme for it, I would typically find that like kind of in doing this, I'm trying to think like kind of the best way to give you a theme on this, but we had to kind of really go deep into what was the meanings that people were placing to the experience. So it's not enough for me to just go and be like, hey, just go and talk to some stranger sort of thing, and then see where that takes you. Because you might go up, the person be like, what the hell are you doing, right? Sort of thing like that. And like really, you might freak someone out and you're like, oh, shit, and freeze up and kind of go back, right? So what we were trying to do is kind of control the meaning that people place to the actual experience. So when you start to like label it and frame it under like, okay, we're going under 1%, the act of just merely walking up, regardless of the actual response the person gives you, the act of doing that is kind of scarring yourself so that you don't feel this again. You actually, you know, it's like you're growing stronger with each time. It's kind of like if you were to build muscle, for example, right? It's like the reps kind of hurt, right, when you're in the gym sort of thing. But eventually it's just like, oh, you're getting stronger and stronger. And it's like every rep is improving it. So it really depends on how you were kind of doing it. So that's, I guess for me, the best example I can kind of give you is that I'm thinking of, like, that might be relatable, is that, you know, you might have someone who, you know, they wake up in the morning and say they got a day off from work, and they're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to be real productive, right? Like today I'm going to get a lot of shit done. We're going to, you know, I'm going to start my day off like pretty strong, and they kind of pace around the house a bit. And they're like, yeah, like, okay, I'm maybe I should probably eat, or I should probably like get my day started, like take a shower and stuff like that. And they're like, and now like it's about like 11, 12 o'clock, and they're like, well, okay, I just gotta eat something. I'll eat something really quick. And they're kind of doing this. They haven't showered yet. They're like, well, I should probably hit the gym before I eat or before.
Dude, were you at my house last Saturday? Like, how do you know this? I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's like they do this, and then it shows up. It's like, okay, well, frick, my day's kind of a write-off at this point. I fucked it up. Let's just go out and I'll go out for dinner or something like that. And then they're showering at like 6 and like trying to get ready to go out. And at the end of the day, they're going to bed and they're just like, well, shit, I didn't do anything. They kind of feel like crap. Now, if we take someone who is, they have a day off, but they've told themselves right off the bat, they're like, you know what, I'm just going to take a day off. I'm just going to relax. And maybe they walk around the house till about 12 o'clock. They're like, yeah, I guess I'll eat, or maybe I should shower or something. They're just lounging around, maybe make some food. And, then they're like, oh, I guess I'll go out, and they go out or whatever, not like that. And then at the end of the day, those two different people have very different experiences. The experience itself was the exact same, but the contextual element behind experiencing that changed what it meant to them. And so what I'm trying to do is repeatedly provide that different context for anxiety. And so by doing it, that's how you properly do an exposure therapy.
Okay. And I would say that's a really interesting analogy. So I would say the difference is your expectations of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And just what you expect to experience with it. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So do you find that there are a lot of people that have a shared experience when you talk about the extreme anxiety that you went through? Do you find that there are people out there who that identify with that experience?
Yes. Oh, tons. Yeah. I mean, obviously it varies, right? The intensity levels do change quite a bit, but I would say that on a kind of a general sense, like I said, everyone has a type of social inhibition, right? And it might not be as intense to the point of puking socially. That really has to do with more of a biological feature. Some people are wired in a way to receive a lot of adrenaline, right? And so what ends up happening is that as you get that sort of reaction, your body shuts down and it reserves energy into the vital organs. And what ends up happening is your digestive system shuts down. So some people puke, and some people just that's why we sweat, kind of get nervous and things like this. So the biological effect is different for a bunch of people, but I find that the actual experience of kind of being reserved and filtering your words and such like that, that's very, very common. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so there's definitely a need there. Have you been able to see progress? Are you getting any feedback so far?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. And that's why I was pretty excited to put out the second version of this, right? It's after putting out the first version, just kind of getting the different feedbacks from it and such. And actually when I'm doing coaching and using this process with people, it was unbelievable transformations, right? And the nice thing for me is this process took me quite a while to figure out just for my own life, right? But now that I've condensed it down into 7 days, it's really intense at 7 days, right? You can take it at your own pace, but I kind of recommend for the depending on the severity, maybe 2 weeks to a month. But you can do it in a week. It's pretty intense. But the nice thing about it is that fears that people have had their entire lives, just walking up to someone they find attractive, these sort of things, or just striking up conversations, or even raising their hand in a meeting, or any sort of public speaking element, you're still going to feel that sensation, but it's whether or not they do it. And every time they do push past that, they kind of gain that 1%, that little more. So yeah, that's
yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking, is that I think you described it as a haze almost in some situations when approaching people or approaching a potentially nervous situation for people. What if I would think that most people have experienced that at some point. Maybe they're, like you said, they're not puking, but it seems like almost everybody would be able to benefit from this program, assuming that it works for them. Oh yeah.
And like I said, it's designed around a bunch of different topics. One of the major things that I've noticed is that when you're confident, you're not feeling anxious.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's where you kind of see the two ties of confidence and anxiety, right? And so the whole process as well with this is it's not just this exposure therapy on there, but we actually dive into what makes a confident person. And so that is where we kind of get into concepts like a self-concept and how you feel about those and how to actually change them. And just as well, how your brain actually picks out different experiences. So a very common one that a lot of people have is, say for example, if they're at the grocery store and they see someone looking at them from a like kind of a couple aisles down or whatever, and they're just kind of staring at the person. Most people would probably be like, oh shit, is there something on me? And the person just has like a blank look, right? But they're like, oh shit, there's something on my face. Is there, you know, what's going on here? But realistically, we don't know anything other than the fact that person is just looking at you. But we don't know if they're spaced out, if they're trying to remember their grocery list. We don't know any of this stuff. But we're placing a story to that. And so our brain is taking that piece of evidence, and it's actually supporting a type of our identity. And that identity could be something that I'm an anxious person, or I'm not confident in any of these sort of things. So we actually look at those and we start to break those down and redesign them, and we start to like find ways to kind of install new ones, if you will. So that's what this process is really about. It's a kind of an in-depth conditioning system, or self-conditioning, yeah.
Okay, interesting. So it's not just like a pickup culture, like kind of thing. I mean, you're talking about business professionals would be able to use these kinds of techniques.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you see a lot of this as well, like in the pickup community too, with just like actually going up and approaching strangers and stuff like this. But this is actually has to do a lot more with just the everyday stuff, right? That like difference if you're, you know, if you're at, like I said, like a meeting before, right? And you know that you can contribute to the meeting, but you kind of like, you're hesitant, you don't want to look stupid, you don't want to like put your hand up, sort of stuff like this, and you're criticizing yourself even before you've said this, or you're kind of rehearsing the words that you want to say before you actually say it. These sort of things, this is where you'll really feel it. So it's kind of, for me at least, is going through it myself, it's extremely inhabilitating, right? For me, it was, it's something that, oh man, it's in every single degree of life, right? And that like paranoia, or that sort of like I said, that mental fog sort of thing, right? So for me, it's getting through that. I love the fact that I can help people. And I see guys that like, and girls as well, who, any of my clients, that they've suffered with this for so many years, and then there's like so quickly when they go through the program, and it's just like immediate change, and like, holy shit, like it seems like I just popped out of this this haze, right? And so
yeah,
that for me is like super important. I love doing that. So
that's really neat. So I'm glad you distinguished it there from the pickup culture, because one of the red flags I think that goes off a lot of times with someone talking about a program like yours is that so many of these programs come out, and so many of them I think personally can seem so disingenuous, misguided, even come from like a bad place. You know, they teach people to not be themselves, to put on a face, to start negging people, you know, like that kind of thing. Like, so I guess how much is of what you teach is, how much does authenticity come into it? And then my follow-up question to that would be, what's the difference between confidence and putting on a front? Sure. Or is there a difference?
Oh yeah, there's a huge difference between like cockiness and confidence, right? So if we define the two, you can kind of put that cockiness under that category of like, you know, like, the best way for me to kind of describe it is like someone's like, yo, don't give a fuck, bro. And you're kind of like, you can tell they kind of give a lot of fucks. And the biggest kind of like way you can test this is see their humility, right? Like if you poke fun at them, do they get upset? And that's kind of a huge, that's a huge red flag for that cockiness sort of thing. Like, can they walk the talk sort of such, right? Whereas like confident people find themselves hilarious. They actually find them, like they think they're a joke. They don't take themselves too seriously in a certain sense because they're very secure within themselves. And that's core confidence. The difference of that kind of cocky nature sort of stuff is they just don't produce results. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of like, I should do this, I can do this, but they're not actually doing something. And so that's that huge difference there. Yeah.
Okay. So what, you're a Gary Vee fan like mine, I'm assuming. That's how we got connected on Instagram. So let's provide some value for the audience.
Cool.
Yeah, what's something that they can do just today, right after this video? Something I really like the idea of the 1% improvement. What's a 1% improvement type exercise that someone can do just to see some results?
Sure. If I were to kind of give like a quick list sort of thing of like just immediate actionable stuff, there's a lot of things. I think the entire culture around this is just getting comfortable with discomfort. And the more you can do that in every other area of your life, even if it seems unrelated, will actually put you in a particular mindset of flexibility. And that sort of flexibility allows you to kind of play around and like handle things a little bit more intensely. As well, like if we were to kind of get away from the theoretical and just give the actionable stuff, something like taking like cold showers every morning. And like, there's a lot of
I do that one. I actually started for the exact reason of trying to get out of your comfort zone.
Awesome. Yeah. And there's like tons of health benefits and stuff like that. Right. But even just doing that action of like taking a cold shower, just so you're like, oh, frick, like, and you just get that shock sort of thing. Being okay with discomfort is really the whole message of this, because that the biological reaction, you can minimize it, but really what it is it's going to still pop up, but the meaning that you place to it can change. And so say, for example, when you have a cold shower and you're able to like feel that discomfort, and then afterwards you have that sensation and you kind of like feel like, and you'll probably notice this yourself, it kind of kickstarts a day, right? You're like, holy crap.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you're like in a great mood sort of stuff. And so now you're able to experience that discomfort because you know of what the delayed gratification of it is, right? Like, in a couple moments, I'm not going to feel this way, right?
Yeah, so, I think the cold shower one is a good one. I've never actually, I spent zero time researching the actual physical health benefits of it. Okay. I'm not saying they're not there. I'm not saying they are there. But the thing that I most get out of it is that I think that's somewhere where confidence comes from, is that having this ability to put yourself in discomfort, or to know that you don't have to live your life in a comfortable little bubble, that you can actually live outside that comfort bubble and still thrive, and do well. And so I highly recommend that one. I'm with you on that. What are some other ones?
Sure. Yeah. One of the ones I actually talk about in the fear sort of thing is actually playing with eye contact. And so it sounds super odd, but hear me out. Is what we do is we actually have someone go down a busy street sort of thing, and they play the eye contact game with people. And so what you want to do is you want to lock eyes.
They're walking or driving at this point?
Oh yeah, so people are walking at the different stream of you, right? Like walking towards you, and you're walking down the same street sort of thing. But as you come up to them, stare into their eyes, and literally the moment that they lose, the moment they kind of like, what the heck, and look away, that's 1 point. Try and get 10 a day. And so it is actually like, it's crazy anxiety provoking, but it's just having the eye, like a staring contest with like random strangers like that. And if somebody comes up to you and it's like, yeah, you're like, oh shit, sorry, I thought I recognized you or something, like, you can just make whatever excuse up, right? But the act of doing that is really like, it's going to produce that effect. And in doing that, you kind of how do I put this, like readjust what that sensation means to you. And so the sooner you can kind of readjust that with like different exposures, that's how you're going to get a lot of like confidence building.
Okay. So we're going to have a lot of people out there around the areas of our listeners just wondering if they have something on their face. Like, why is this person staring at me?
Yeah. I'm always laughing. I'm thinking as soon as I put it out, like I was always waiting for like, they're like, there he is, I'm going to do it to him. Right. Like, yeah. So.
Yeah. Nice. So, all right. Awesome, man. Well, I think that is a really good look at what you do. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you really want to talk about?
I'm just kind of going with the flow. I'm excited to be here. Like this is kind of the first like video product launch that I've done. So for me, this is like a lot of new challenges, a lot of fun. But yeah, I think there was a quote by Tony Robbins that is quite a good one, and it's just that I think what it has to go is like, I'm going to butcher it now, but it's something along the lines of, your quality of life is directly related to the amount of uncertainty you can handle. And that's what I find is the case with this, is that as you're able to start committing to that discomfort and pushing yourself in like every degree of life like that, you're going to find that absolutely the quality of your life increases, right? And that comes from, the state you're able to put yourself in when you're confident. And so, yeah, that's kind of, I guess, the major premise of this is just like how to do it in an effective way, right? Like, it's like, I don't want to just throw people up on a stage sort of thing, or like throw them into the lion's den, if you will. There's actually a way to kind of like baby step our way there, so it's not as intimidating as it sounds. It's like just walking up to a immediate stranger. Like, there's things we do, like it's a slow process, but we can do it in a controlled way that forces almost these mini traumas that keep growing and growing on top of each other. So that's a lot of the actual process of it, as well as kind of the philosophy about how confidence kind of comes about. And how you're probably familiar with the term like the reticular activation system, and how that kind of sorts information for your. No, have you heard of that one before? No,
never. Well, no, I don't know big words.
Okay. So
I avoid them.
The process there is just it's actually a sleep-wake function for your brain. But what ends up happening is that your brain needs to pick out relevant information. So maybe, for example, you've had a friend who bought like a red Mini Cooper or some particular type of car, and then all of a sudden you started to see those cars everywhere. Have you ever had that experience? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it's not that those cars weren't there before, it's just that now your brain's actually picked it out of its experience. And so that process, every time you're doing that, you're constantly going to be using this kind of reticular activation system. So what we need to do is refine tune it. Because think of it like this: if you have an identity that is one, like we were talking about the shopping example, like when you're at the grocery store, if your identity is something along the lines of like you're a socially anxious person, or you're not confident, or these sort of things, when you experience something, your brain picks out evidence based on that. So the very identity that you're holding, it's going to support that identity. And the reason you do this is that your mind functions the same way that your body does, in the sense it's just trying to keep you alive. Right? So it's just like, what do I know to keep me alive? Let's find more of that and add that in, right? Versus when we kind of start to break those things down, we look at them at their core, we can actually select new identities, and in a certain sense, like kind of bullshit our way into believing them for a small period until we start to actually see the results of it. And so that process, to me at least, is like how a person, like, you know, genuinely starts to become confident. And you know, I actually think I have a video on this on my YouTube channel where I talk about like what is self-love and such. And I think it's a very tricky topic because it's yeah, it's one of those things that, like, what the heck does that mean to like love yourself? Like, really, when someone's like, you just gotta love yourself, it's like, what the heck does that mean? But like for me, it's not something that you can actually I can't even teach it to someone. But what I can do is I can facilitate experiences that help that person kind of come to the realization that, you know, they had no reason to not love themselves in the first place. But the only way we do that is we kind of see that, like, when someone's able to start selecting new stuff from their experience and like kind of get new, let's call it evidence to support a confident self-image, when that starts happening, then an individual can, you know, they can recognize that all they were doing was this process, and they're just sort of kind of messing with their own brain. But you need to have that, though. You need to have that thing of like, shit, I started doing this thing, and people started treating me differently. And all it really was this thing I was doing and picking out. And as you're able to do that, you'll notice that, like, yeah, you start to, it's kind of a realization, like a clicking moment. You're like, shit, this is what it means to love myself. I had no reason to see myself negatively in the first place. So this is very like core level stuff that we can make shifts with. So that's, yeah.
That's great. So that's a good place to leave off on.
Sure,
learn to love yourselves.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. And don't start self-deprecating YouTube shows where you claim that everybody is cooler than you.
Oh, I love that title though. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. So, all right, yeah, I cannot wait to learn more. Awesome. I wanna read the book. I want to see the web series and the YouTube channel. What's the best way for people to learn more? Is it your YouTube channel?
Yeah, you can go right onto my YouTube channel. It's just Justin Quinton Coaching. I think it's actually, the handle is just Justin Quinton right now as well. But yeah, that, or as well, yeah, my website, which is justinquintoncoaching.com. Yeah.
JustinQuintonCoaching.com. Quinton is
Yes.
Quinten?
Quinton.
Okay, there you go, guys.
Yeah.
All right, so just rewind the YouTube video back and put in the right address. So JustinQuintonCoaching.com. Justin Quinton is the YouTube channel. And when can we expect your 2.0 series to come out?
Should be about, I think it's June 14th is what we're aiming for. It's a tight schedule, but it should be coming out pretty quick.
That's soon. You're going to be very busy over the next
Very busy,
weeks.
yeah.
Good. That's not a bad thing. So
Oh, no,
I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Justin Quinton,
man.
you are way cooler than me. Congratulations. I do have to ask one thing.
Sure.
I almost forgot. I'm going to put you on the spot here because I didn't give you a heads up. You have to name someone who you think is cooler than you.
Oh man, let's go with that, like Tony Robbins. You know, that's your classic.
Oh, okay. Okay, I probably don't. 17 viewers is probably not enough for me to invite Tony Robbins on the show. I will invite him though.
Oh, okay.
Because do you have? I didn't specify that. Do you have anybody
someone cooler than me is my buddy Moses. He has a fashion line called Moe Blanco, so he's very cool guy.
His name is Moses.
Yeah.
That's cooler than that. Okay, so yeah, hopefully everybody, we're gonna see if we can get Moses on the show. He's got a fashion line that sounds exciting. So we love the entrepreneurs on this show. And once again, Justin, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, you can just close your window, and we will all go out to your YouTube channel.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye now.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching the People Cooler Than Me show. Like I said, next week I'm going to have the full studio up. I'll hopefully have my green screen working and be on a completely different software platform. So I'm very excited about the changes we're making coming up. Hope that you're enjoying the show. Next week on Thursday, I'm going to do something different. I'm actually going to do what I call a subscriber hangout. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go live next week, Thursday, around 6 p.m. No promises, but around that time, I'll put out a tweet. I'll put out an Instagram post, and I will put a link in the YouTube comments section as well as the description. When you click that link, you'll need to log into your Gmail account. Everybody's got a Gmail account. Don't pretend like you don't. Log into a Gmail account, and you will join me here on the show. And I want to talk to my subscribers. I want to talk to my listeners, but you have to be a subscriber. You got to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you get the notification next week. There's a little bell under the YouTube video that you can hit to get notifications when I go live. And yeah, so I want to do a subscriber hangout. I'm going to talk to all you all. So I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys next week.